Welcome to our 36th edition of Cool Tools. This is where I get to show you some of the many clever and innovative tools that I find over the years and that I get to work with in my shop. This time I've selected 4 surprisingly inexpensive tools and 3 rather pricey tools, all of which I think have really improved my shop time since I've been using them. One cost me less than $2. Another is something that nobody has ever shown on YouTube before to my knowledge. And these are just some of the surprises in this edition of Cool Tools, so be sure to stick around to the end to see them all. As always, if any sponsors are involved, they're disclosed at the beginning of the video and down by the links so everything is clear. Now please use those links below if you're interested in seeing more about anything or if you want to see the current prices, because some of these have limited time discounts that I was able to secure, so it's definitely worth checking out those links. You'll find them by expanding the video description directly below. You usually have to click on something to do that. And I've also pinned them to the top of the comment section where they're a little easier to find. Now let's get started. I've used a lot of featherboards over the years, and I've shown some on Cool Tools and other videos in the past. Those are still good products. I stand by those recommendations. But the Bow Feather Pro has really caught my attention lately because it's just different. And there's 3 key ways. It's different in its material makeup, its unique design, and its anti-kickback protection, which is really game-changing. Now right away you'll notice that the fingers are made not from wood or plastic like traditional featherboards, but from EVA hardened foam, which is ultra dense and hard wearing, but also isn't going to mar your workpiece. And unlike some plastic featherboards that can become a nightmare if they do come in contact with a bit or a blade, the Feather Pro's fingers won't splinter or shatter or explode, and they're not going to damage your carbide. You can even replace damaged fingers for a fraction of the cost of the entire new featherboard. But what really makes this unique is the laser cut pattern on the fingers. They call it a living hinge, and this fundamentally changes how featherboards function. The fingers easily bend in the feed direction. That produces just the right amount of pressure for a smooth and even feed rate. But should something go wrong and the saw decides to kick that board back at you, the unique curved shape at the top of the fingers, combined with that living hinge at the base, produces a cam-like action that greatly increases the pressure and virtually locks the board in place, making it very difficult to force it back towards your body. The manufacturer claims 5 times greater pull resistance than a standard featherboard, but I think it's more than that. It's really a unique design that honestly has changed my attitude about how useful featherboards actually are as anti-kickback devices. And I'm convinced the Feather Pro is the real deal when it comes to that. You don't have to toss all your old featherboards. I'm not suggesting that. I just think that maybe you should get just one of them so you can try it for yourself. I'm sure you're going to agree that it is the smoothest and potentially safest featherboard you've ever used. And they come from a small family business that's run by 2 brothers who came up with this great idea in their garage, and they've built a business around it. I love supporting things like that. So I'll link to them below this video. 3M has been quietly developing some game-changing sanding products lately, and I happen to know a guy, so I've been able to get an early look at some of these innovations as long as I promised to keep them hush-hush until they were publicly released. First, that was the sander that we talked about before, and now this one has finally gone public, so I can tell you my experiences with the 3M Extract Portable Dust Extractor. Basically, it's a shop vacuum on steroids. While it can certainly be used to vacuum floors and whatever else you want to clean, like the carpet here in my shop, it's specifically designed to extract dust from handheld power tools, such as sanders and grinders and saws. It generates a tremendous amount of suction, as much as 102 inches of water lift, which is how they measure static pressure in vacuum systems. High static pressure is critical when you're trying to pull dust through those small ports on handheld power tools. So by way of comparison, 102 inches of water lift is nearly twice as much as many shop vacuums claim to produce. This is also quieter than most shop vacuums by about 5 decibels at its lowest setting. Decibel scales are a little weird, there's lots of math involved, but I believe that means the average shop vacuum is more than 3 times as loud as this dust extractor, and it's very noticeable to me. Of course, that's at its lowest setting, because the 3M is adjustable. You can dial it up or down to suit your needs for suction while managing the noise, something that comes in really handy indoors. The filtration is also much better. This has a dual HEPA filter design that won't clog up like a shop vacuum because it's equipped with an internal filter cleaning system that vibrates the cake dust off both filters without interrupting the suction or letting any fine dust out into the air. That solves one of the biggest pet peeves I have with shop vacuums. The filters are always clogging and it's a mess to clean them out. This fixes that. One of my favorite features though is the outlet on the front. You plug your power tool in it and the dust extractor will turn on and off automatically with the tool. You don't even have to think about it. Now this feature is found on other dust extractors, but the 3M is the only tool I've seen that also powers on and off with pneumatic tools. It holds 9 gallons of dust and it can be used without a bag. However, if you don't want the extra mess of dumping out the bin, or if you're using it for really fine dust like drywall and you want to extend the filter life, you can use disposable felt bags or reusable polyethylene bags. The 15-foot anti-static hose comes with a multi-diameter connector on the end that's compatible with many different power tools, and I'm told they will soon have some adapters for threaded tools like Festool. I already have a threaded connection for my 3M sander, and let me tell you, that thing is a pleasure to use with this extractor. Now speaking of Festool, I know some will ask how the 3M dust extractor compares to Festool's dust extractor. And I do have a Festool dust extractor, so I might make a comparison video down the road. But just looking at the published specs, it appears that the 3M has greater static pressure, it has greater cubic feet per minute airflow, it'll work with both electric and pneumatic sanders, it can be used with or without bags, and it has a better filter cleaning system in my opinion. So I admit, this sort of technology doesn't come cheap. I'm not suggesting every small shop woodworker can afford to switch from a shop vac to a dust extractor. This is for folks like me that obsess over dust collection, especially with small power tools like sanders, or who appreciate the higher quality and the special features of a dust extractor compared to a shop vac. It's also a good choice for a contractor who works inside occupied houses and businesses where dust and noise are a big concern. So regardless of where you fall, I think you should at least click on the link below. That's going to take you to another small family business that I think is well worth supporting because they're just good people. And a prime example of that is how Mike over at Taylor Tools is doing something nobody else I know of would do. He got a personal discount for his first order of these extractors from 3M for the initial launch. But instead of putting those extra profits in his pocket like everyone else does, Mike is passing them on to you. He's cutting the price on his website by that amount. It's more than $200 each. Now that only runs until his initial stock is gone because that's what he got the discount on. And that's going to happen quick. So jump on that link below if you're interested. A while back I told you about the SBS diamond sharpening system. It's 3 grits of diamonds, 3 leather strops with paste, and everything else you need to get razor sharp edges all in one easy to store portable case. I'm a big fan, and apparently many of our viewers agreed because it sold out almost immediately after I showed it on Cool Tools. Well, they've been able to get back in stock, and I was able to get a special limited time deal for my viewers. So I'm going to put 3 links below. One is going to get you a free measuring and marking bundle with a sharpening station purchase. That's over $100 in savings. The other link is going to get you 10% off the sharpening station alone, if that's all you want. And the third will get you 10% off just the measuring and marking bundle, so the folks who already have the sharpening station aren't left out entirely. You do have to use a discount code for that third one. That'll be next to the link below. Now, Empower did not have to do this, but this is just another example of a small business going the extra mile for my viewers, and this is why I choose to work with these companies. So keep in mind that these discounts are only available for a short time, so don't dilly-dally. Use the link below this video for the most complete hand sharpening system I have ever used before it sells out again. Chipsfly.com is yet another small business that has long been one of my favorite places for cool tools because they come up with some of the most clever, truly useful stuff, and they don't charge an arm and a leg for it. This is their Team Marking Square set. And while I have seen similar products before, I was shocked at how inexpensive these are considering the exceptional quality. Now let me show you some of the unique features that qualify these as cool tools. First of all, they're made from sturdy anodized aluminum, so they're not going to bend or kink. But it's still easy to utilize all the holes that are precisely positioned along the scales. There's one every 1/16 of an inch along one edge and every 1/8 of an inch along the other edge. If you place the base against the edge of a workpiece and a pencil in any of these holes, you can scribe accurately positioned lines parallel to any edge. It also serves as a square for marking lines perpendicular to an edge, or as a tri-square for project assembly. There's even a protractor for measuring or laying out angles, and if you remove the base, it becomes a large straight edge for drawing lines and laying out shapes. The set comes with a 6-inch and a 12-inch version, and both are equally handy around the bench. Believe me, it is worth your time to check these out. Use the link below. You'll thank me later. The MicroJig Fit Finder half gauge has been sitting around my shop for quite a while, and I never really paid it much attention until recently when I had to make a half flap joint. Now normally, I'll use test cuts to raise my saw blade or sometimes my straight router bit to exactly half the thickness of my workpiece. And that works. I made a video about it once, but it does take a little fiddling. So this time I decided to try out the MicroJig. It's pretty much as simple as can be. You raise the rear fence, and as you do, the front fence raises exactly half as much. So if my workpiece is under the back one, the point on the front fence is exactly the height that my saw blade needs to be to cut halfway through. I can lock it in place with the rear knobs, and then I use it to set up my saw or my router table. But this isn't just for half flaps. Many router bits also have to be set to the center of a workpiece, and this jig makes setups of edge banding sets and even some lock miter bits way easier. Anytime a router bit needs to be set to the center of a workpiece, this is now my go-to tool. In fact, there are loads of ways to use it in the shop. It's one of the more clever little tools that I've seen in quite a while, and it's at a decent price that makes it worth grabbing and keeping on hand for the next time you need to find the perfect fit in a project. I'll link to it below this video. It's been a couple years since I gave up my drill-based pocket hole jigs and I switched over to Castle pocket hole systems, and honestly, I've never regretted it. There are lots of reasons why, but the biggest benefit is its unique two-step process that it uses to make the pocket. That way it's always tear-out free and clean, the pilot hole is also clean, and it's at a lower angle than other jigs can produce. And that lower angle better centers the screw as it comes out the edge of the workpiece, making a stronger joint, and it reduces joint drift when you assemble things, making things much easier to do. Honestly, there's just no comparison between a Castle pocket and one formed by a drill bit. And in past episodes, I've shown you their small machine, which is well suited to the small shop, and their benchtop machine for those who do a fair amount of cabinetry work. But this time, I'm going to show you the coolest of the cool. This is my dream pocket hole machine, the Castle TSM22. This beast might not be for everyone. It's a production tool designed to produce lots of perfect pocket holes in as few steps as possible. You really have to take a closer look. The machine is activated with a foot switch. That one switch does it all. First, it engages a pneumatic piston clamp to hold the workpiece in place. Then it activates an internal 2-horsepower router with a carbide bit to cut the pocket cleanly. And then it finally activates another 1-horsepower rotor with a titanium-coated bit to bore the pilot hole from the end. It does all of that with a single tap of your foot, making it possible to cut pocket after pocket after pocket on small and large workpieces with amazing speed and efficiency. And every one comes out crisp and clean every single time. Everything about this machine speaks to its quality and I think really thoughtful design. And this is something I've just come to expect from Castle because they've been making these things in California for 30 years now. The body is heavy steel and the table is low friction HDPE with grooves for quick part alignment. I love how the top opens with gas assist so I can access the inside for maintenance. The routers are high quality Bosch motors and all the tools you need for bit changes are conveniently stored inside. It comes ready to do 3/4 inch up to 1.5 inch material, but it can be easily adapted for thinner stock. The distance between the pocket and the edge of the workpiece is also adjustable, so you can use one screw size for multiple material thicknesses. There are clever safety features too, like an enclosure over the foot pedal to prevent accidental activation, and 2 buttons in the throat that must be depressed so the machine will only function with a workpiece covering up the cutters. Despite being an industrial quality machine, it runs on 110 volts, but it does require 85 psi of air from a separate compressor. The 4-inch dust port on the back works well for keeping the shop clean, but I do wish there was a plastic flange for attaching a hose with a clamp. I know this machine might be a bit much for many weekend woodworkers, and as I said, Castle makes smaller machines as well. But the TSM22 is a pleasure to use, and since I do have the room and the budget and friends who need kitchen remodels, it does make sense for my shop. If you'd like to see more, check it out at the link below this video. As you know, I always like to end each episode with a cheap tool that served me well over the years. In this case, for 30 years. That's how long I've been using zebra pens, and I still love them because they're tough and they write smoothly. I love the classic stainless steel barrel and the good strong feel of the spring. It's exactly the same pen as when I got my first one in the early 90s. I suppose you don't mess with perfection. I still use the 0.7 millimeter point the most, but I also keep a few of the thicker 1.6 millimeter points around for when I need bolder, more visible lines. You'll generally find my zebra pen in my pocket next to its perfect companion, my Graph Gear 1000 mechanical pencil. That's right, I don't use zebra mechanical pencils because I like the Graph Gear ones for a lot of different reasons, which I've explained on Cool Tools in the past. I'll link to them both below. If you have one, try the other one and see what you think. I like to buy the zebra pens in 12 packs because I lose them, or I like to say people steal them, and it works out to only about $1.50 each, and you can't beat that. Now don't forget to use the links below, but before you do, here's one last bonus. If you get what you pay for, then why are bandsaw blades so inexpensive at sawblade.com? Seriously, they're as good as any I've used. They come in any size you need, and they cost quite a bit less than anything comparable at the woodworking retailers. Try them for yourself at the link below this video. You'll see.